Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I don't know if you ever watched WWF, the old World Wrestling Federation with Hulk Hogan, and every now and again the referees would go rogue and actually start wrestling the wrestlers. And I kind of feel like as parents we sometimes end up in that situation.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Elsa, no, wait. Give me my glove. Elsa, please, I can't live like this anymore. What did I ever do to you? Enough, Anna. No, why? Why do you shut me out? Why do you shut the world out? What are you so afraid of? I said enough!
Siblings. Can't live with them. That's all I've got to say. Can't live with...
I can't believe you'd say that. I can't live without them.
Yeah, you're very kind. You've got good sisters.
I do have good sisters.
Actually,
there have been times where we've been challenged.
I've heard you say things about your sisters.
But I can't live without them. Even when I don't want them in my life, I still can't live without them.
That's fair enough. I've got, I'm the eldest of 6, so I've got 5 siblings, and sibling relationships can be challenging, but I feel the same way. I actually really love my siblings and I'm grateful for them, but boy oh boy, we've had some moments over the years. So today, by the way, I'm Justin, you are Kylie, and we're the parents of 6 kids, and I run a website called happyfamilies.com.au, and we're talking about Fight Club.
Oh gosh.
When the kids are just at each other.
It feels like that. It definitely feels like that sometimes.
It's draining, it's exhausting, and it kind of, you're like, if you don't stop killing each other, I'm going to kill you kind of thing.
We become the referees, don't we? The countdown's on.
Kind of get involved ourselves. You know, I don't know if you ever watched WWF, the old World Wrestling Federation with Hulk Hogan, and every now and again the referees would go rogue and actually start wrestling the wrestlers. And I kind of feel like as parents we sometimes end up in that situation.
Too often, yes.
So today we are here to resolve your sibling rivalry dramas, and I don't know how it's going to go, because every now and again I look at our kids and think, oh, how did this happen? What did we do wrong? But it got me thinking about sibling rivalry generally. And it occurred to me that we kind of get cranky at our underdeveloped, socially inept children. I mean, let's face it, they don't have the emotional skills, they don't have the cognitive skills, they don't have the social skills. And we get really cranky at our 3-year-old when they're not getting along with their 18-month-old sister or brother. We get really cranky at our teenager who's having this hormone and brain explosion and developing in all kinds of crazy ways that they're not ready for. And they're getting cranky at their 11-year-old or their 8-year-old sister or brother. And I thought, it's kind of unfair, really, that we expect that our kids are just going to get along just because they're siblings.
Do you and I get along all the time?
This is a hard question to answer on a podcast. I mean, well, so this is the thing. We have our moments with our own siblings. How old were you? Honest question. How old were you when you started to genuinely like and get along with consistently your siblings?
I was about 13.
Oh, come on.
No, I was. I was about 13, and my younger sister underneath me, she became literally my best friend.
Okay, but in spite of the fact that she literally became your best friend over the last couple of decades, you've had plenty of ups and downs.
Oh, of course. But by the time I was about 13, because I was the oldest too, and so they looked up to me, and you know, that in and of itself was a little bit tricky because it was just like, just be your own person.
Yeah, okay. So I'm the eldest of 6, and my family's recently gone through a massive sibling rift, and it's gone for a couple of years, and fortunately it's beginning to heal, and I'm so grateful. It's caused so much pain and so much distress, and yet here we are as adults in our 30s and 40s and getting dangerously close to 50s, and as adults we're still having sibling issues. And I watch my parents and the heartache that they feel. And so again, I look at this situation, I'm like, we're grown-up siblings, and we still have our moments. It's kind of unfair that we expect that our kids are just going to get along.
Well, rivalry is part of life, right? Whether it be siblings or marriage or co-workers, there is tension all the time in our relationships.
I totally agree. And I want to go back to that point that you've just made about marriage. I mean, you kind of raised it at the start of our conversation, and you've just brought it up again, and it's worth pausing on, because whether you're in a long-term partnership or you're in a marriage, what you've essentially done is you've said to your partner, your husband, wife, spouse, whoever it is, I'm committed to you.
I choose you. I choose you. As a sibling, do you get a choice in who your brother or your sister is? We just don't. And yet as partners, we literally say, I choose you.
And then we still have fights. We still have conflict and challenge and disagreement. Let's face it, we love each other like crazy. just like siblings actually do deep down love each other like crazy. But sometimes you did get cranky at me just the other night because I stayed out talking to a friend for an hour in the driveway when you were waiting in the bedroom and you didn't want to talk to me for a day or so after that.
Yep.
Oh, and I've just brought it back up again. I've created the conflict again. Oh, no.
You know, it's interesting. I remember a week before we got married.
Yeah.
We'd been dating for about 11 months.
Yep.
We had not had a single disagreement.
We had the most wonderful courtship. So much fun.
But the week before the wedding, my mum
Yeah.
witnessed you and your mum having a fight. You were having an argument.
Well, I'm going to say we had a disagreement. I'm not going to say it was a fight.
Well, in our household, the way we have a fight is silence.
Yeah. And
Nobody talks. Everybody's very, very withdrawn, and you just know that you're in trouble, but nobody's willing to talk about it.
not how the Coulsons do it.
In your household, it is explosive, dynamic, passionate. Words fly from the
We're just
from the
expressing how we
ceilings,
feel.
from the
That's
vans.
all. We're just saying I feel this way about things.
There's
right
a
now.
lot of expression going on. Yes. And my mum walked into that. She saw you and your mum having quite a heated conversation about something that you obviously were very passionate about in the moment.
Totally trivial.
And so that night we had a family meeting called that involved you and me and our parents. And it was discussed whether or not it was actually wise that you and I should get married.
Oh, there were tears. That went on until like 1 a.m. And
It
so
was a long night and it was a very, very painful night. But both your mum and my mum were so scared that if you could fight with your mum, then obviously you were going to have a fight with me, and no one wanted to put me through that.
Yeah.
And you and I sat there and we both were bawling our eyes out. It was actually quite an emotional moment. Now
big
it
night.
just seems like it's a very funny experience. But there was just so much concern about if there was going to be contention. Was this the right thing for us to do?
Yeah, should we get married? Because if we're going to fight, that would be really bad. And it wasn't until about midnight or 1 o'clock that
Our dads
stepped in.
finally said something. And said, if somebody had said that to us 20 odd years ago,
would we have ever gotten married?
we would never have gotten married.
So there are actually, scientifically, there are some benefits to sibling rivalry. And I think that it's worth spending just a moment on that before we break and talk about how we can help our kids because we still want our kids to manage their rivalry well and to fight less. Like just because there are benefits doesn't mean that we want them to be doing it. Benefits.
Look, it's an opportunity for us to learn how communication works, and we do it in a safe environment. These are the people that we love.
It's critical, though, that we highlight that it's an opportunity. As parents, we've got a responsibility to help our children to learn how to manage these conflicts effectively. It's an opportunity to learn how to manage conflict, not to learn how to fight.
100%.
And research tells us pretty clearly that effective conflict resolution is most likely to be learned at home so long as parents know how to do it.
That's the tricky part, though, isn't it? Like, are we equipped as parents to know how to?
Which means that what we're really focusing on here is sibling rivalry is an opportunity for empathy, for compassion, for understanding others' needs and recognizing that we are not the center of the universe. I'm just thinking about the things kids fight about.
You breathed my air.
Yeah.
She looked at me.
She's in my room. She's touching my stuff.
And as they get older, she's wearing my clothes.
Well, even when they're younger, she touched the button on the elevator. I wanted to push the button on the elevator. She pushed
That's
the button
my
across.
toothbrush.
I hate it when they
I didn't leave that towel.
use each other's toothbrushes. It's disgusting. Anyway, we're going to come back after the break and talk about, even though it's normal that kids fight and there can even be some healthy outcomes to it if it's dealt with well, we're going to talk about what we can do when the kids are fighting to make things better.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
For a happier family, try a Happy Families membership, because a happy family doesn't just happen. Details at happyfamilies.com.au.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we are talking about Fight Club. And we are the referees.
Did you know research shows that kids fight up to 8 times per hour?
It feels like that. It probably feels like more.
Sometimes
Especially when there's 6 in the house.
But you know what? This is a really important conversation. We're talking about whether or not we should be intervening and how we can manage the sibling rivalry. And I was thinking, there is no child that is so obnoxiously smug as the child who's just managed to get their sibling in trouble for something. and they're sitting there being so well behaved while their siblings getting torn apart by parents who are like, why are you doing this to your sibling? You know, that smug look that they've got on their face, like, I got you in trouble. I got you in trouble. So how do we manage it? What are the best things to do? Now, I'm obviously the guy with the PhD in psychology, but you've raised 6 kids and you've done a lot of it while I've been traveling around the country helping other people make their families happier. So my guess is that you've experienced plenty of opportunities to intervene and involve yourself in sibling squabbles. What do you reckon your best couple of tips are? And then I'll dive into some of the science.
One of the things that I think that I have experienced more than anything else is jumping in, catching the emotion of the moment and thinking that I know exactly what's happened, only to find out that the child I'm ripping into is actually the victim and not the problem.
Yeah.
So often we think we see it. We think we know what's happened. And unfortunately, behind our back, child A has gone off and done something, and all of a sudden we've actually created a bigger problem as a result. And so one of the things that I think is so important with this is just being able to take a step back, not catching the emotion of the moment, and really understanding what's happening. That's an opportunity for us to spend time one-on-one to help them have perspective on what's actually taken place.
So what you're really talking about is getting emotions calm and then providing an opportunity for empathy. What's going on for you? What's going on in the family? What's going on for your sibling? How's everyone feeling right now? And then starting to problem solve together.
Yeah, totally. Because, you know, when we started this conversation, we were talking about our own siblings, and so often we've got big emotions going on inside us and our siblings have big emotions going on inside them. And sometimes it actually has nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
But we've come together, and because of the emotions and the burdens and the things that we're carrying in our own lives, the way we interact with each other creates another problem that was not even a problem in the beginning. And it's the same for our kids. Our kids come home, they've had a really, really hard day, and their sibling looks at them the wrong way. And because they're feeling low, emotional, you know,
and they don't have the social and emotional regulation skills,
they blow up.
Yeah.
But if we could just recognize that they're carrying a burden and help our children to recognize that they're carrying a burden, what does it feel like when you know, this happens? Or could you imagine being that person? Then all of a sudden, we have an ability to empathize.
So I've got a few ideas as well that I'd like to throw out, because I'm thinking kids fight about stuff all the time. They fight about who's going to be in the front seat. You
know, in my day, it was who's going to sit in the back seat.
Right. They fight over injustice. It's not fair. Have you noticed how upset they get about who got the bigger half of the muffin that you've chopped in half, or the donut?
Yeah, I love our rule on that one.
Yeah.
You cut it, they choose.
That's right. So I do this one all the time. One of the kids is like, I'll cut the donut, I'll cut the cake. And I'm like, that's fine. You cut it in half and the other one gets to choose which half they want. And they're like, oh, can they cut it? No.
And then you watch the precision.
To the millimetre. They're so careful about it. I reckon there's a handful of things to remember when it comes to what the science says. Because, I mean, I just think about how it feels to be a child. It's so hard. You're fighting over property. You're fighting over territory. You're fighting over, I want my parents to be on my side and see things from my perspective. You're fighting over the fact that you just want to be amused. Like sometimes kids just fight because they're bored. I used to think to myself when the kids would say, hey, let's play tip, let's play tag. And it's like, what you've just done is you've said, you want to take a jog and finish it with a fight.
You know, I'm listening to you say all of these things, and what this really boils down to is that our kids don't feel like they have a lot of control in their lives. Like they don't have the autonomy to make choices.
And they want more connection as well.
Yeah.
So the science tells us that it really depends when it comes to intervening on their age and the way they intervene. So when it comes to age, research shows that with younger kids, we need to intervene faster, sooner. We need to get in there and sort of separate the kids. And then I would usually actually say, don't try to teach them lessons, just distract them. Because with little kids, and I'm talking about kids under about the age of 3 or 4, they're not going to respond to a lecture. They just need to be distracted. Separate them, give them something else to do. They'll figure it out. When the children get older, research tells us that if we can help them to have shorter disputes, they have warmer relationships. The longer the dispute goes, the colder the relationship. And that's best evidenced by adult siblings who have disputes. Those disputes, pride gets in the way, people stop talking, the dispute goes on for longer and longer, the air becomes so frigid that they don't know how to communicate anymore, and then years go by.
And it's harder and harder.
Right.
to step back into a positive relationship.
Shorter disputes, warmer relationships. And so what that means that as parents, just like you've said, you intervene, but you don't intervene unless, especially as they get older, like 10 plus, you don't intervene unless it looks like someone's going to get hurt. You might walk in and the intervention goes like this. You guys seem to be having a tough time. What can I do to help? And maybe you distract them. Maybe you invite reflection. You certainly want to encourage empathy, but all you're going to do is describe and invite them to accept your help if you need it. If they accept your help, then you say, well, I don't want to start getting into a turn taking who did what to who. That's going to be frustrating. Why don't we just talk about how everyone's feeling right now? And I know that sounds a bit soft and cuddly, like a little bit mollycoddling sort of thing, but that seems to work best. How's everyone feeling? How did they feel when you did that? How did you feel when they did that? Okay, so we can see how we've created this in each other. What can we do about it? How can I help? That seems to be a nice, calm, composed way to deal with it.
Well, I think the reality is when we're in that heated moment, we're not actually thinking about how the other person's feeling.
No.
We're thinking about what we're feeling.
Because high emotions, low intelligence.
That's right. But as soon as we start to recognise that my actions have actually caused pain, more times than not, we're able to take a step back and go, that's not my intention. I just want my bag, or, I just want my room back.
I want my toothbrush. Stop using my toothbrush.
Or whatever it is. We're not horrible people. More times than not, we have no desire to hurt people. But in that moment, that's all we can see. We can just see we want this outcome and we'll go to whatever lengths to get it.
And you know what happens when the kids are fighting, whether you intervene or not? They'll be fighting, it'll be ferocious, it'll be vicious, it'll be all on, and 60 seconds later, next minute, they're besties again.
Yes.
It's like, what is your problem? Like, if someone spoke to me like that, I wouldn't talk to them for a week. And they become best friends.
But aren't they awesome like that? They just have such forgiving hearts.
They are. So our take-home message when it comes to sibling rivalry. Number one, it happens, and it's not always bad. Number two,
it's important that we, as the parents, don't catch the emotions of the rivalry, the incident, and that we're able to help our children take a little step back and do some perspective taking.
Yeah. Which kind of ties into my third take-home message, and we haven't said it explicitly, but it's interwoven through everything that we've said today, and that is we've got to be an example. We've got to be a model. We've got to model the effective way to navigate disagreement and tension, so that the children are learning that it's not about blowing up, it's not about name calling, it's not about hitting, it's not about doing any of the stuff that drives us mad. It's about saying, we seem to disagree. Let's work this out together in a calm and rational way.
So tonight you'll come to bed instead of staying out in the driveway?
No friends coming over tonight. No one in the driveway. I'm all yours. No more conflict about that one. Hey, we really hope that you've enjoyed the podcast. Thanks so much for listening. We hope that it helps make your family happier. This is one, I reckon, that will hopefully make a really big difference for improving relationships at home. If you do enjoy the podcast, those ratings and reviews that you leave at Apple Podcasts make all the difference for other people being able to find out about the podcast. And we just are so grateful that so many people are getting great value out of the things that we're sharing. As always, we thank Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, our producer, and a special thank you to Craig Bruce, our executive producer, for the fabulous name of today's episode and for his ongoing inspiration. If you'd like more info about making your family happier, you can get it all on our Facebook page for free, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families, or visit my website, happyfamilies.com.au.